Your waistline may tell your doctor more about heart risk than the number on a scale, and 5 minutes of paced breathing may keep your heart rate from spiking before a high-pressure moment. Today we're unpacking 4 new studies. How abdominal fat reclassifies cardiovascular risk. How coffee consumption tracks with body composition and sex hormones, whether short breathing exercises blunt acute stress, and why Reddit conversations become more negative over time. The common thread is measurement, what we track, what we change, and what online behavior reveals about human psychology. First, a large cardiology study says it may be time to move beyond body mass index. BMI has long been used to diagnose overweight and obesity, but it cannot tell where fat is stored. Visceral fat, packed around internal organs, is more strongly linked to heart disease and diabetes than subcutaneous fat under the skin. Researchers from the cross-cohort collaboration followed more than 260,000 people for an average of 20 years and examined 9 outcomes, including heart attack, stroke, heart failure, atrial fibrillation, total coronary heart disease, total cardiovascular disease, and mortality. They asked whether adding waist circumference or waist-to-hip ratio to BMI gave a clearer prediction. It did. Among people with a normal BMI, 5% had a high waist circumference, and 18% had a high waist-to-hip ratio. Among people with overweight, 39% had a high waist circumference, and 40% had a high waist-to-hip ratio. Meanwhile, among people classified as having obesity, 9% had a low waist circumference and 40% had a low waist-to-hip ratio. Those with normal or overweight BMI plus high waist circumference or waist-to-hip ratio had a 15 to 50% greater risk for most of the 9 outcomes. By contrast, people with obesity but low waist circumference did not have a significantly different risk compared with normal weight people with low waist circumference, except for all-cause mortality, where their risk was lower. Context: this does not mean BMI is useless. It is cheap and standardized. That BMI alone can misclassify risk. The study's authors encourage clinicians to consider central fat distribution across the entire BMI spectrum in primary prevention. Limitations: the cohorts did not include measures of physical activity, diet, or genetic obesity risk, and waist and hip measurements were assessed only once. That means the study cannot show how changes in central fat over time affect risk. But the direction is clear. Where fat is distributed matters. That same theme, body composition and metabolic health, shows up in a Finnish study of habitual coffee consumption. Coffee is one of the most widely consumed beverages in the world, and prior work has linked it to lower risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. But biological mechanisms remain unclear. Researchers at the University of Oulu used data from 2,264 participants, aged 46 in the Northern Finland birth cohort 1966. They examined coffee intake alongside circulating metabolites, cardiometabolic markers, and sex hormones. The headline: despite having a similar body mass index, people with higher coffee consumption had lower total fat and lower visceral fat, and greater skeletal muscle mass than people who drank less. In both sexes, higher coffee consumption correlated with lower circulating branched-chain amino acids. Those are biomarkers that, when chronically elevated, have been linked to insulin resistance and an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Then the sex differences appeared. In men, higher coffee intake was linked to a more favorable glucose-insulin profile, higher total and bioavailable testosterone, and higher sex hormone-binding globulin, often called SHBG. Free testosterone and the free androgen index were modestly lower. In women, hormonal associations were more limited, higher SHBG and lower measures of free androgens. The lead author notes that the distinct hormonal signature did not disappear after accounting for BMI and lifestyle factors, and several associations differed between men and women. Why this matters? It suggests hormonal pathways may partly explain the relationship between coffee and metabolic health. But this is an observational study, so it shows association, not causation. Participants were from a single Finnish cohort at age 46, in one of the highest coffee-consuming countries, with annual consumption averaging about 11.8 kilograms per person. Researchers say future work needs to determine whether coffee itself drives the changes and identify the compounds responsible. They are now investigating those questions in animal models with a long-term goal of human intervention studies. So do not interpret this as a prescription to start drinking more coffee. It is an early signal, not a randomized trial. Now from long-term dietary patterns to a quick intervention. A study published in Comprehensive Psychoneuroendocrinology tested whether 2 ultra-short breathing routines could blunt the body's physical reaction to acute stress. Acute stress triggers fight or flight, heart rate climbs, breathing quickens, and the body prepares for action. That response is useful in real danger, but can impair performance, and when repeated, contribute to long-term health problems. For firefighters, police officers, and military personnel, managing this response is a safety issue. Researchers at Texas State University recruited 66 university students and randomly assigned them to normal breathing, box breathing, or prolonged exhalation. Box breathing, sometimes called tactical breathing, involves inhaling, holding, exhaling, and holding again in equal 4-second intervals. Prolonged exhalation uses a 3-second inhale through the nose and a 6-second exhale through pursed lips, repeated once every 30 seconds. The volunteers fasted for 4 hours, rested, gave saliva samples, and then learned they had to deliver a 5-minute speech to convince a panel of judges they were the best candidate for a job. They had 5 minutes to prepare, then 5 minutes practicing their assigned breathing routine before speaking to a pre-recorded video of 2 professionally dressed judges. The speech task clearly stressed the control group. People who breathed normally showed increases in heart rate, self-reported anxiety, and salivary alpha amylase, an enzyme that spikes with nervous system activation. The 2 breathing groups did not show those spikes. Both box breathing and prolonged exhalation prevented the typical surge in anxiety and physiological stress markers. There were no differences between groups on rapid mental math or color word matching tests, so the breathing exercises neither improved nor hurt immediate cognitive performance in this sample. Important caveats. Cortisol levels declined in all groups, possibly because cortisol has a natural daily rhythm, and the task included breaks, so it may not have been continuous enough to trigger a true hormonal stress response. The judges were a pre-recorded video rather than a live panel, which may be less threatening, and the researchers did not formally ask participants whether they noticed the deception. Heart rate variability was measured before and after, not during the breathing, so the exact real-time mechanism remains open. Still, the fact that a 5-minute routine blunted the stress spike in a controlled task makes it a promising low-cost tool. Finally, a study about social stress and conversation itself. Researchers from Harvard and colleagues analyzed more than 2 billion comments from 2,150 Reddit communities and found that the entire website became more negative over time. The longer a community existed, the more negative it became. And the longer a comment thread continued, the more negative the thread became. This was not just an algorithmic story. The team argued that differentiation, the human drive to stand out, also pushes conversations negative. Negative information is more diverse than positive information. If the top comment says, "I liked it," there are only so many ways to say something positive. To be unique, people often shift to what they disliked. The researchers found that negative comments were more semantically unique from what had already been said. The more positive a thread started, the more negative it became, because positive ground was taken early. Larger communities also became more negative, consistent with a crowded information ecosystem. In an experiment, users primed to be unique posted more negative comments than users primed to conform. even though they were not told to be negative. This reframes online toxicity. Attention-seeking algorithms matter, but even without them, differentiation can lead to negativity when a conversation must stay on one topic. The authors stress that communities do not fall off a cliff. Their analysis limited to the first 50 comments, but in rare threads with thousands of comments they saw an oscillation. Positivity could become a way to stand out again. The study is limited to Reddit, and it is observational. The theoretical extension to cable news or other media is plausible, but not directly tested. It suggests that the negativity trap may apply when a discussion cannot change topics and has to continue with little new information. The through line is that simple measurements and simple behaviors can reveal more than we expect. Waist circumference captures risk that BMI misses. Coffee intake is associated with body composition and hormonal patterns, but association is not causation. A 5-minute breathing routine can blunt the body's stress response, while the structure of online conversation can quietly reward negativity even without bad intent. Each finding is a starting point, not a final answer. The next step is to test whether changing waist circumference, changing coffee intake, or changing breathing practice changes long-term outcomes, and whether platform design can redirect the drive for uniqueness toward more constructive contributions. Here's the question worth taking with you. If the human need to stand out naturally makes long online discussions more negative, what would it take to make positive contributions just as distinctive? Please subscribe for more daily science content.